God is moving even when you cannot see it. This truth is one of the hardest for the human heart to grasp, because we live in a world that trains us to believe only what we can measure, touch, and observe. Yet God often works in the realm hidden from our senses, weaving together answers long before we recognize them. Many people mistake divine silence for divine absence, but silence is often the loudest evidence that God is shaping things beneath the surface. Just as a seed germinates in the unseen soil before breaking through, many of God's greatest works begin in places our eyes cannot reach. The quiet seasons of life, those moments when prayers seem unanswered and progress appears stalled, are frequently the times when God is arranging every detail with precision. There are situations in life that feel motionless. You may pray for change, pray for breakthrough, pray for clarity, and yet nothing shifts before you. It can feel as though heaven has turned its face away, or that your voice falls into an empty void. But feelings are not reliable indicators of spiritual movement. God often prepares the answer long before He reveals it. It is the same way clouds gather before rain. You may not see the storm forming, but the atmosphere is already shifting. In the same manner, God shapes the right relationships, opportunities, alignments, and moments long before they reach your doorstep. While it appears nothing is happening, He may be protecting you from stepping into something too soon, or shielding you from something you were never meant to walk into at all. Many times, the greatest works of God look like nothing is happening at first. Think of the way a sunrise begins. Before a single ray touches the horizon, the earth is already turning toward the light. Movement occurs before sight. In the spiritual realm, God turns circumstances, hearts, and seasons before you even sense the change. He may be softening a heart you've been praying for, opening a door you don't yet know exists, or closing off harmful paths that would have led you into disappointment. His hands are constantly shaping outcomes, even when your world seems still. The struggle for many people is the tension between what they feel and what God is actually doing. Human nature leans toward anxiety. When answers aren't immediate, we assume that if we don't see movement, then God must not be working. But faith teaches us to believe beyond the present moment. Faith is not built on sight, it is built on trust. When you cannot see evidence, you rely on His character. When you cannot perceive progress, you rest on His faithfulness. God does not pause His work simply because you do not perceive it. His faithfulness is not dependent on your awareness. Imagine a craftsman carving a masterpiece. From the outside, the early stages look simple and unimpressive. The strokes appear random. The shaping seems unclear, yet every cut serves a purpose. In the same way, God shapes circumstances with intention even when the shape of His plan has not yet emerged. You may not understand why certain things are happening or why some things are not happening, but every moment is a piece of a larger design that will make sense in time. What looks like delay may actually be preparation. What feels like restriction may be preservation. What seems like silence may be alignment. There are also moments when God deliberately conceals His movement to draw you into deeper trust. If He revealed every detail at once, faith would not grow. It is in the unseen seasons that trust matures. When you rely on Him despite not seeing the outcome, your heart learns to depend on Him rather than on circumstances. The unseen work of God builds a deeper, stronger faith than any visible miracle. The miracle may be the moment you see the answer, but the transformation happens while you wait in the dark. Even in times when life feels stagnant, God may be moving in ways you would never have considered. He could be opening doors in someone else's life that will eventually intersect with yours. He could be aligning events across distance and time to ensure your steps are ordered. He could be preparing you internally so that when what you've been praying for arrives, you will be ready to carry it. Much of God's movement is timed perfectly, and perfection often requires patience. Knowing this doesn't eliminate hardship or confusion, but it anchors the heart. It reminds you that God's hand does not rest. His plans do not falter. His presence does not drift away. The unseen work of God is as real as the breath in your lungs. Every moment, whether you perceive it or not, is touched by His activity, forming the path ahead in ways that will eventually reveal His wisdom, His timing, and His purpose. Waiting seasons are preparation seasons. This truth runs through Scripture, through history, and through the personal journey of every believer who has walked with God long enough to understand His ways. The waiting room of life often feels like a place of stillness, but spiritually it is often the most active, transformative environment you will ever experience. Waiting is not God withholding something good from you. It is God shaping you for what He has already planned. Many people interpret the waiting season as a punishment or neglect, but it is none of those things. Waiting is training. Waiting is refinement. Waiting is where God strengthens the foundation so that what He brings into your life does not collapse under the weight of immaturity or impatience. In moments of waiting, you learn who you are and who God is. You learn to distinguish between your timeline and His, between your desires and His purposes. You learn to let go of impulsiveness, fear, and the need to control every outcome. Waiting exposes the hidden weaknesses in the heart, those areas that impatience can mask but pressure reveals. When God allows you to wait, He is not ignoring your prayers. He is making you into the kind of person who can walk through the door you've been asking Him to open. The promises of God require the character of God to sustain them, and that character is often built in seasons where nothing seems to be happening on the surface. The waiting season teaches dependence. When you cannot change your circumstances, when you cannot accelerate the process, when you cannot manipulate the outcome, you learn to lean on God in a deeper way. This dependence is not meant to weaken you, but to strengthen you. It teaches you to rise above the instability of emotions and rest on the certainty of God's faithfulness. In waiting, you learn to trust without conditions, to believe without evidence, and to hold on without guarantees. The strength of your faith is not shown in moments when everything aligns, but in moments when nothing aligns and you still believe God is good. Waiting seasons also reveal the motives of the heart. Sometimes God delays what you want to expose why you want it. He may be purifying your desires, reshaping your priorities, or redirecting your motivations so that your pursuit aligns with His will instead of your own ambition. Many blessings become burdens if received prematurely. Many open doors can become traps if entered without preparation. God, in His mercy, waits to give you what will bless you only when you are capable of stewarding it well. Waiting protects you from premature breakthroughs that would ultimately hinder your growth. There is also a deep spiritual discipline that develops only through waiting. Patience is not learned in moments of convenience. It is learned in seasons of discomfort. Endurance is not formed when answers come quickly. It is forged when you must continue forward without seeing the result. Trust is not strengthened in ease. It is strengthened when delay tests your faith. Many virtues described in Scripture, perseverance, long-suffering, meekness, faithfulness, are cultivated in the soil of waiting. You may think nothing is happening, but God is growing something in you that could not have grown any other way. Waiting seasons clarify vision. When you sit in a place where you cannot act impulsively, the noise of urgency fades and the whisper of God's voice becomes clearer. You begin to see what truly matters, what is truly from Him, and what is simply your own desire disguised as destiny. Waiting brings perspective. It allows you to step back from the rush of life and notice what God is trying to show you. Sometimes the answer is not delayed. You simply needed time to recognize it. These seasons also deepen your resilience. Waiting has a way of strengthening the inner resolve, the kind that holds you firm when storms come later. God often uses the waiting period as a training ground to prepare you for the very thing you are praying for. If you are asking for greater responsibility, waiting strengthens your discipline. If you are asking for greater influence, waiting shapes your humility. If you are asking for a relationship, waiting purifies your heart. If you are asking for breakthrough, waiting fortifies your perseverance. Every delay has a purpose, and that purpose is always connected to your development. In the waiting season, God sometimes closes doors that seem promising, removes opportunities you thought were ideal, or allows certain plans to crumble. These moments are painful, but they are also protective. God sees what you cannot. He knows the future you do not. He understands the dangers you cannot predict. When He delays you, He is not denying you, He is guiding you. He is steering you towards something better, something safer, something more aligned with your calling. Waiting seasons are also seasons of pruning. God removes what cannot remain, trims what hinders growth, and cuts away what would weigh down your future. This pruning is not punishment. It is preparation. Growth requires letting go. Strength requires surrender. Maturity requires refinement. God does this work not because He wants to take from you, but because He wants to make room for what He intends to bring into your life. When you begin to see waiting as preparation, the frustration begins to fade. You realize that every day of delay is shaping you, teaching you, strengthening you, and positioning you. There is work happening in your heart, in your mind, in your character, in your faith. And though you may not yet see the outcome, you are being prepared for it with every moment you wait. God opens doors no one can shut. This truth carries a power that can steady the heart in uncertain seasons, because it reminds you that your life is ultimately governed not by chance, not by people, not by circumstances, but by the sovereign hand of God. When God opens a door, it is not a fragile invitation that can be revoked by the opinions of others or blocked by the limitations around you. It is a divine appointment, a sovereign act of God that no force in the natural or spiritual realm can overturn. This assurance frees you from the fear that someone else could ruin God's plan for your life, or that your own past mistakes could disqualify you from His purpose. When God opens a door, it is secure because He Himself is the one holding it open. There are seasons when the doors in front of you feel locked, sealed, or unreachable. You may feel stuck between desire and reality, between where you are and where you believe God wants to bring you. In those moments, it is important to remember that the authority to open and close doors belongs to God alone. People may deny you, circumstances may discourage you, and opportunities may seem out of reach, but none of those have the final say. God does. His authority surpasses every earthly barrier. What He ordains cannot be undone by human interference or spiritual opposition. When He opens a door, He does so with a purpose that is unstoppable. Sometimes God allows you to approach closed doors so that when He opens the right one, you recognize His hand in it. Not every door you desire is meant for you. Some remain closed because they would lead you into places you were never meant to go, roles you were not designed to fill, or relationships that would pull you away from His will. These closed doors are not signs of rejection, they are acts of mercy. God sees the full picture, and in His wisdom He prevents you from stepping into spaces that would harm you spiritually, emotionally, or physically. Many of the doors you feel frustrated by today will one day be the very reasons you thank God for His protection. In the moments when the right door opens, it often comes with a sense of divine alignment, timing, opportunity, and circumstances that converge in ways you could never orchestrate yourself. This is because God works with precision. He aligns people, resources, timing, and events in such a way that when the door swings open, it is clear that only He could have done it. You may look back and realize that every delay, every disappointment, and every detour was part of the preparation for that moment. God's open doors come with His peace, and though they may still require courage and obedience, they carry a sense of divine confirmation. God also opens doors through means you would never expect. Sometimes the opportunity comes through a person you never anticipated, a conversation you didn't plan, or a shift in your life that seemed inconvenient at first. God is not limited by the pathways you imagine. He can open doors in ways that defy human logic, break normal patterns, and exceed natural limitations. The same God who split the sea for Israel, who opened prison doors for Paul and Silas, and who made a way where no way existed, is still capable of creating opportunities that override what seems possible. There are also times when a door remains shut long enough that you begin to wonder if you misunderstood God's promise. You may question your direction or doubt whether the door will ever open. But God's timing is different from yours. The door may not open until the moment when its opening will accomplish the greatest good in your life and bring the greatest glory to Him. God often waits until circumstances are arranged in a way that makes His involvement unmistakable. When the door finally opens, it will be clear that it was not your strength, your strategy, or your influence that made it happen. It was the hand of God. Another important reality is that when God opens a door, you do not have to strive to keep it open. Human effort can force opportunities temporarily, but only God can sustain them. A door opened in your own strength must be maintained by your own strength, and that leads to exhaustion and insecurity. But a door opened by God remains supported by Him. You can walk through it with confidence, knowing that the one who opened it will also provide the grace, wisdom, and resources to remain there. You are not required to manipulate circumstances or cling out of fear. God's openings come with God's sustaining power. God's open doors also carry purpose, not just opportunity. They are not random moments of access, but intentional invitations into places where He wants to use you, grow you, and reveal Himself through you. When He opens a door, it is not just for your advancement, but for His kingdom. It may be a new job, a new relationship, a new assignment, a new calling, or a new season, but behind every open door is divine intention. He opens what leads to life, growth, and alignment with His will. In all of this, one truth remains steady. No one can shut what God has opened. No opposition, no criticism, no fear, no setback, no spiritual resistance can override His decree. What God initiates, He sustains. What God authorizes, He protects. What God unlocks, He completes. His authority is final, His power is unmatched, and His purpose is unshakable. Delays are not denials. This truth is one of the most comforting and challenging realities of walking with God. In a world accustomed to instant gratification, quick results, and rapid answers, waiting feels unnatural. When something you've prayed for does not happen immediately, it can stir feelings of doubt, frustration, or even fear. Yet many of God's greatest works unfold through delay. What seems like a pause to you is often part of God's larger plan. His timing is woven with wisdom, compassion, and understanding that far exceeds your own. A delay is not the end of the story, it is the shaping of it. When God delays, He is often preparing something in you or around you that is necessary for what He intends to bring into your life. Sometimes delays expose the true condition of the heart. When answers do not come quickly, your motives are revealed. Do you want God, or do you simply want His blessings? Do you trust His timing, or are you relying on your own? Delays refine your desires and purify your intentions. They reveal whether your faith is rooted in convenience or in conviction. When you learn to trust God in delay, your faith becomes deeper, stronger, and more resilient. You discover that your hope is not built on circumstances moving at your preferred pace, but on the character of a God whose timing is perfect. Delays are also a form of protection. Many opportunities look good on the surface, but carry risks you cannot see. God sees the future you cannot. He knows what lies ahead in relationships, careers, opportunities, and decisions that appear promising. When He delays something, He may be shielding you from harm, disappointment, or failure. You may think you are ready for what you want, but God knows the areas of your life that still need growth. A premature blessing can quickly become a burden if the foundation is not ready to support it. God delays not to punish you, but to prepare you, not to frustrate you, but to safeguard your future. In many cases, delay is part of the process of development. Think of how a seed grows. Before it breaks through the soil, it spends time in darkness, taking root, expanding, and strengthening itself for the moment it will emerge. If the seed were forced to the surface too quickly, it would not survive. In the same way, God allows you to stay in certain seasons longer than you prefer because your roots are being strengthened. Patience, wisdom, humility, endurance, and spiritual maturity grow in the soil of waiting. These qualities cannot be rushed. They are shaped through time, pressure, and perseverance. Sometimes the delay has nothing to do with you personally, but with the orchestration of events around you. God may be aligning people, resources, and circumstances in ways you cannot imagine. He may be preparing someone else who will play a significant role in your story. He may be positioning you in the right place at the right time, coordinating details that must come together before the answer can arrive. What feels like inactivity is often God synchronizing your life with His purpose. Divine timing requires precision, and precision takes time. Delays can also create a deeper appreciation for the blessing when it finally arrives. What you receive too easily, you may take lightly. But when you wait, pray, endure, and trust through the delay, the blessing becomes more meaningful. It becomes a testament of God's faithfulness and your perseverance. It becomes a reminder that He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. The blessing that comes after delay often carries greater joy because your heart has been shaped to value it properly. There are times when delay prepares the stage for God to reveal His power in a more profound way. If answers came instantly, you might attribute them to luck, coincidence, or your own ability. But when delay stretches beyond your control and God still comes through, the testimony becomes undeniable. The world sees His hand, and you recognize that it was only by His intervention that the breakthrough arrived. Delays create room for miracles. They set the stage for God to do what only He can do. In the midst of delay, it is easy to grow weary. Doubt whispers that you have been forgotten. Fear suggests that the promise will never come. But delay is not God ignoring you. It is God investing in you. He is working in the unseen, arranging the visible and shaping the internal. He is answering your prayer in the way that will bring the greatest good to your life and the greatest glory to His name. Every day of delay is filled with purpose. Every moment is part of His design, forming you and preparing you for what He has already planned. God's timing is always perfect. This truth stands as a steady anchor for the believer, especially in seasons where life feels uncertain or progress seems slow. Human time is measured by clocks, calendars, and deadlines, but God's timing is measured by wisdom, purpose, and eternal perspective. He sees the past, present, and future in a single view, untouched by the limitations that confine human understanding. What feels late to you is right on time to Him. What feels early to you may be premature in His eyes. His timing flows from His perfect knowledge, and because of that, it is never rushed, never delayed, and never misaligned with His ultimate plan. There are moments in life when you feel the urgency of your own desires. You pray for breakthrough, for answers, for direction, for fulfillment, and yet God seems silent or slow. It is natural to assume that something is wrong, either with you, with the circumstances, or with the prayers you are lifting up. But God sees what you do not. He understands the layers of preparation required before a promise can manifest. His timing takes into account every detail of your life, your character, your maturity, your environment, your relationships, and your purpose. He knows what you are ready for and what you still need before you can step into the next season. Sometimes God's perfect timing means holding something back until the moment when receiving it will produce the greatest impact. A blessing received at the wrong time can lead to confusion, distraction, or even harm. God is not withholding good from you. He is ensuring that when He releases it, you will have the strength, wisdom, and stability to carry it. He does not simply want you to enter a new season. He wants you to thrive in it. His timing protects you from the weight of premature blessings that could overwhelm you before you are ready. God's timing also involves the shaping of your inner life. Many breakthroughs require personal transformation before they can arrive. Patience, humility, trust, faithfulness, resilience, these qualities cannot be forced or fabricated. They grow through seasons where you must trust God without seeing immediate results. These seasons stretch you and refine you, molding your character to align with the assignment He has prepared. You may think you are waiting on God, but often He is waiting on you to develop the strength and spiritual maturity needed to sustain the blessing He intends to give. There are moments when God's timing seems confusing because He allows delays that don't make sense in the moment. Opportunities appear and disappear. Plans shift unexpectedly. Doors that looked promising close without explanation. These disruptions can feel discouraging, but they are often divine redirections. God closes certain paths because He knows where they lead. He rearranges circumstances because He sees the full story. When you surrender to His timing, you acknowledge that He knows more than you, sees farther than you, and loves you beyond what you can comprehend. God's timing is also perfect because it involves more than just your life. He is orchestrating events that involve people you have not met yet, opportunities you have not discovered, and connections that will matter greatly in your future. Sometimes the delay in your life is connected to someone else's preparation. God may be aligning hearts, opening minds, or shifting circumstances in ways you cannot see. His timing synchronizes the details of multiple lives at once, bringing together the right people at the right moment for the right purpose. This level of coordination requires time, patience, and precision. In addition, God's timing reveals His glory in ways that instant answers never could. A prayer answered immediately may bring relief, but a prayer answered after a long season of trust brings transformation. You learn to lean on God rather than on yourself. You learn to see His faithfulness in the waiting, not just in the blessing. When God moves at the moment everything seems impossible, the testimony shines brighter. His power becomes undeniable. His intervention becomes unmistakable. The timing becomes part of the miracle itself. There are also times when God moves quickly and unexpectedly. The breakthrough you waited years for can come in a single moment. The door that stayed shut for a long season can swing open in a day. These sudden shifts remind you that His timing is not governed by natural limitations. He can accelerate what seemed delayed and bring forth what seemed dormant. His timing is not slow, it is strategic. He knows when to move, how to move, and why to move. Living in alignment with God's timing requires surrender. It requires releasing your agenda and embracing His. It calls for trust that His wisdom surpasses your understanding and that His love for you is deeper than your desire for immediate answers. When you embrace His timing, you experience peace even in the unknown. You learn to walk by faith, not by sight. You recognize that every season, whether waiting, shifting, pruning, or advancing, is guided by His perfect hand. The expected door will open soon. Walk in faith. This truth speaks to the tension between hope and reality, the space where God invites you to trust Him beyond what you see. When you sense that a door is near, when you feel the stirring in your spirit that something is shifting, when your prayers begin to carry a different weight, it is often a sign that God has been working behind the scenes. The door you've been expecting may not look the way you imagined, and it may not arrive in the timing you predicted, but it will open according to God's design. Even now, things are moving in the unseen realm, aligning and arranging so that what God has promised can come into view. The key is to walk in faith before the door appears, not after. Walking in faith means acting not on what your eyes perceive, but on what your spirit knows to be true. You may not see the door yet, but faith allows you to prepare for it. Faith means taking steps in the direction God has spoken, even when the path seems uncertain. Many people want to see the door before they move, but God calls you to move before you see the door. Faith precedes sight. When you walk in faith, You demonstrate that you trust God's character more than your circumstances. You show that you believe His word even when the evidence has not yet surfaced. It is this kind of faith that positions you to step through the door when it finally opens. The nearness of the expected door often comes with resistance. The enemy loves to attack when you're close to breakthrough because he cannot stop God from opening the door, but he wants to stop you from walking toward it. Weariness, discouragement, doubt, and distraction often intensify right before the moment of victory. This is why walking in faith is essential. Faith shields your heart from the lies that attempt to convince you that nothing is happening. Faith anchors you when emotions shift. Faith keeps you moving when circumstances try to paralyze you. When you walk in faith, you refuse to interpret your situation by how it looks and instead interpret it by what God has promised. Walking in faith also requires obedience. Sometimes God will nudge you towards small actions that prepare you for the open door. It might be letting go of something that cannot go with you into the next season. It might be developing a skill, adjusting a habit, healing a wound, or stepping out of a comfort zone. These acts of obedience may seem minor, but they are significant. They create alignment between your readiness and God's timing. Faith without obedience often becomes wishful thinking, but faith expressed through obedience becomes expectation. When you obey God in the small things, you position yourself for the greater things He has prepared. There are moments when the door seems delayed, even though you sense its closeness. You may question whether you misheard God or whether your expectation was misplaced. But expectation itself is evidence that the Spirit is stirring something within you. God often places the awareness of an approaching door in your heart before He reveals it in your life. This inner knowing is not a coincidence. It is preparation. God prepares your spirit before He presents the opportunity. He gets your faith ready before He gets your circumstances ready. When you feel the shift inside you, when hope rises unexpectedly, when clarity settles where confusion once lived, these are signs that something is near. Walking in faith does not mean ignoring reality. It means acknowledging reality while holding firmly to God's promise. The door may not be visible yet, but the lack of visibility does not mean lack of movement. God does not need your eyes to show you the door. He needs your heart to trust that He is leading you. Faith says God is working, even when silence surrounds you. Faith says, even when the hallway feels long. Faith says, I will keep moving, even when progress seems invisible. Every step of faith brings you closer to the moment God has already marked for your breakthrough. Sometimes the door you expect opens differently than you imagined. It may come through a person you did not consider, an opportunity you were not looking for, or a shift you never planned. God rarely works according to human predictions. His creativity is limitless, and His methods often surprise you. But while the how and when may surprise you, the fact that the door will open remains certain. God completes what He begins. He fulfills what He promises. He brings to pass what He plants in your spirit. When the door appears, you will recognize His fingerprint on it, and everything will make sense in ways it couldn't before. The expected door opens for those who keep walking. If you stop before the door arrives, you may miss the moment because breakthrough often comes while you're still moving. Faith propels you forward even when your feelings resist. Faith keeps your vision clear even when circumstances cloud it. Faith is not a feeling, it is a choice to trust God step by step. You walk forward believing that God is guiding your steps, preparing